Hello and welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast, episode 143. Indies we slept on. With me, George, and as always joined this week by RGT and a special guest, Sebastion from the Single Player Experience and the Pro Nerd Report, wide awake to my deep in slumber. How are you both?
Very well, thank you, George. How are you doing? Have a good week?
Yeah, a good week. And Sebastion, our fine guest, and if I may do so, I'm going to call you Seb from now on in. Seb, how are you?
Sounds good. Glad to be here. Glad to, I'm in Texas right now, so I'm glad to see the Texas representation with the Rangers hat. So, everything's going pretty well, though.
Good. Well, as I said to you off air, a very strange subsection of human being that's from Lincolnshire and into baseball, let alone an even higher skew that puts me as a fan of the Texas Rangers. I can't explain it, but like most of my actions in life and on the show, said they don't have any meaning. I just seemingly randomly push in different directions until I feel happy. And Texas Rangers makes me feel happy. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Single player games are a main focus of my life. So your show is one that sings like an angel with a harpsichord to my very inner soul. So thank you for joining us today. And you're going to help us dig through some indie games we might have slept on. Let's face it, I'm probably in a 10-year-old coma as far as some of these fine picks of indie games go. So I hope to be awoken so I can nibble on them over the Christmas period. Without any further ado, it's probably only right and proper, as this show is formulated in this way, that I ask you what you've been playing this gaming week, Sebastion.
Well, like many people in the world right now, I am just hooked ever so dearly on God of War Ragnarok. I love this game. Absolutely adore God of War Ragnarok. And I've probably put close to 62 hours into the game so far. So,
wow.
Holy moly. I thought I'd gone deep, Sebastion, but you've got the hat, the T-shirt. No spoilers here, but wow. Okay. And how are you finding it this deep into the game?
I've just recently last night, an hour 62, I actually beat the main story, which is not indicative of like how long the main story is. It's actually, a lot shorter than that. But I was so engrossed with like finding every little secret, like finding a lot of the Easter eggs or like doing a lot of the side quests, because this game has those in abundance. But I love this game. I actually think this is probably... It's moved up close to my top 3 games of all time. And it's making the argument. Yeah, it's making the argument right now for number 1. So I think just the writing, the dialogue, the way like everything in this game has weight to it. Everything matters and everything builds off of one another. So I don't quite know another experience that I've ever played that was quite... Well, for one thing, this well polished, and then that felt like everything had substantial weight to it. So I don't know. This feels like a masterpiece that rarely comes around, but like once every 5 to 6 years.
Wow, high praise. Just so you know where I am, I've just finished a section that's given me access to a green stone that I can put a sword hilt into. And that takes me off to a little mini boss kind of guy who I've been threshing with my Blades of Chaos and getting him just over halfway down his bar before his sort of rather unforgiving jump in the air, then red, no matter where you go, unblockable attack comes down like, I don't know, very nasty hail on a winter's night. And that normally leaves me legs akimbo on the floor, Freya running across to me in the slow-mo with the erection stone. So no, I'm doing this in one. Don't waste that stone on this pathetic attempt. Give me a do-over. Let's go again. So, once the show's in the bag, I plan to go back and claim that. I've obviously got the... can't say too much, but I've got a long stabby weapon now that can duplicate itself. So I don't know where I am, maybe only a quarter of the way through the main story. Maybe I feel to me like it's maybe maybe halfway, just under halfway, but who knows? But all my weapon slots are filled. So what more they got to give me?
I would probably say you're around 60%.
Ooh.
Around, yeah. There is like, depending on whether or not you do get distracted by side quests, but there is probably like I would probably say maybe 6 hours left of gameplay. Like if you're just doing the main quest.
Well, I feel now I've got my whole weapon wheel filled.
Mm-hmm.
I now feel like some of these areas where I saw the
little tidbits,
subtle notes that said use this, and I tried all my weapons. I think, well, I can't. Well, I don't really know what more to do. But now it's like, okay, so now I can go in with that. Now we can make this whole area my playground. So I'm looking forward to dipping into some of the side quests and seeing those all out. So I rudely interrupted with my excitement about your excitement about exciting God of War Ragnarok. Tell me, what else have you been playing other than God of War Ragnarok, or has that completely consumed you like a black hole consumes the sun, Seb?
No, it is one of those games that is probably like I've always go back to it, but I am playing Vampire Survivors quite a bit right now.
I've heard a lot about this. Tell me more about this.
Before I dive deeper into that, that's one of the indie games that I think people slept on. So I think we'll say that for the topic of the show, so to speak. But I've been playing Vampire Survivors. I've been playing Rogue Legacy 2, which is a fantastic sequel. Another game I think people slept on. And
hang on, is that a roguelike?
Yes, it is.
Ray, you've brought us to there. Every week a new roguelike comes out, Seb, and it's like, how do we keep up with these roguelikes? And how do we, maybe in the indie section, you're going to help us pick between a good roguelike and a bad roguelike. Hopefully with your guidance, you can steer us in that direction. Before we lose track of time, space, and reality, probably knowing me, RGT, what have you been playing?
Put a few more hours in Harvestella.
Good one.
Yeah, that's a strange game because the farm and sim side of it is, if people don't know, Harvestella's a Square Enix sort of one of their range of budget titles that are coming out at the moment. It's a cross between literally like a Stardew Valley clone in 3D with an RPG, but it's very basic farming elements. It's very basic RPG elements, but for some reason it just works. It really works well, and I'm probably, I wouldn't say I'm too deep in, probably about 12 hours in at the moment. But really enjoying it. Like I say, it's literally the farming side of it is just taken from Stardew Valley. You've got your chests, you've got your ship and box, you've got, but everything is, you can just water anyway. You have your hose there. You don't need to upgrade water, and you can later on, but everything's there just to grow, and then you can make, the good thing of it is you can make your food, which then improves your health as you go on your RPG missions, which has got a story side to it. It's quite it's not a too in-depth story. I find it a very relaxing game, something I just keep chipping into, working away through. It's quite nice. It's not too hectic. So really enjoying that. And also I started playing Grid Legends this week.
Oh, yeah.
I got that on sale. I mean, I paid next to nothing for that. I mean, that was like £17, about $20, It's really dropped in price. And I'm not sure where Codemasters are going now since EA's took over, but I thought I'd give it a go for that price. I mean, I've only put 2-3 hours into it so far. I mean, that's okay. It's got that nice sort of story mode to it to keep you sort of engrossed in the story, which is real-time actors. You'll recognise a couple of them. Them scenes are quite good, actually. They're quite well acted. They do sort of hold you in the story. The cutscenes of gameplay, where they show a car going off or a driver's had an accident, very PS3-ish.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, I got the PS5 version, and you'll have like the actors looking at a screen where they're showing the gameplay of a car going off and, the racing team, and then they show you that game or that cutscene of the gameplay, and it doesn't look good. Graphics themselves in gameplay.
Let me stop you now. Mm-hmm. Are you saying that my guardian angel of consoles, the PS3, technically the most powerful games console on planet Earth, more powerful than a PS5, more powerful
yours is
6 Radeon computers nailed to each other? Are you telling me the graphics aren't good? The PS3 has a specific art style called sort of 2008 moody blues textures. They're the kind of textures that sing to your heart. To be honest, I'm close to just canning this whole show in the bin.
I think it was to the stage where they'd done all the acting, they'd done all the filming for the acting, they'd done all the gameplay and the the devs got to there and thought, oh, we haven't added the cutscenes in. What can we quickly use? Oh, there's a PS3 land there. We'll quickly use that and chuck them in.
Wow.
And that's what, but they're few and far between.
That's why the cutscenes are ray traced and the actual gameplay looks shoddy next to it. I think your eyes just a little bit warped.
Yeah. Oh, even the models of the cars, you sort of think, oh, I'm not sure of that.
That's rough.
I'd be disappointed with that on the PS4, to be honest. That I was a bit, I'm not quite sure. Like you say,
you've rocked up and you've thrown down hard dollar. Technically, when this launched, $69.99 Great British pounds or whatever a PS5 game goes for in America. Let's say it's $70.
70.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, and then you take home Grid Legends. How would you have felt day and date if you'd got that? Just bearing in mind those graphics, you got it for a snip. Just fair play. Every now and then, if you get a cheap item, you got to roll with the punches, haven't you? Sometimes you get a sandwich at a buffet, it's gone off, and you get food poisoning. Is this one of those cases?
No, I think it's enough there. I mean, if you can pick it up now, that's okay. I think if I'd have paid full whack for that, I'd have been, it's an okay game. The driving's pretty good. I mean, Codemasters, they know how to make a driving game. And that's more bordering on the side of arcade than it is, it's EA now, so it's going to be more arcadey than it is sim. But it's enough there to have fun. At full price? No, probably not. I wouldn't say that. I mean, if anyone's got EA Access, that's on there. You can get the full game on EA Access. So if you got that, jump on and have a go, save your money that way. But, it's worth a play. I'll dive into it a bit more and see how we, get on with it, really.
So let me ask you, how does this game stack up against other racers such as like Forza Horizon and Gran Turismo? Do you think it's a disappointment in light of those games?
It's the only thing that's got in common with those is it's a driving game. It's very arcadey feel to it. There's no sim to it at all. I suppose it's more. It reminds me of the earlier Need for Speeds, where you have your storyline to it and you follow through. But this is more of a race and team story, and that's your typical rags to riches. You start from nothing and you work your way up, and then your cutscenes come in. The cutscenes are nice and well done. Like I say, they're well acted, and they do immerse you in. But I mean, if you're into your racing games, if you played the Forza Horizons, if you played your Gran Turismos, you'll probably come into this and think, meh, that's okay. It's okay.
One more question on this bargain bin fine that's probably going to be little more than a footnote in the history of gaming 2,000 years from now. But Grid Legends, how does it compare to maybe like the original Grid?
Oh, not in the same ballpark. The original Grids when Codemaster done them. I played those on Grid 1 and 2 on the PS3, and they are quality games. They're really good. Good mix of simulation and arcade. They were fantastic games, but EA does their thing with games now, and they add that story in, and they,
didn't the original Grid have a storyline though, where you were some sort of racer and you had like a female manager, and then you had the mechanic, wasn't he a Cockney or something like that?
Yeah, it was a bit similar. It was
here you go, mate. You're going to be the future of racing. Let's get you started in a banger race. Yeah,
I think the original Grids were just a track version of the Dirt games. Was Dirt your offer? It's that sort of spin-off, but they were really well done, really nice. Had really good online on those as well. The online was fantastic on them. But this one, I think it's like you say. I think it's a game that's come, it's gone. It's half price in 6 months, and but I think it's worth a playthrough. If you've got EA Access, if you can pick it up for $20, give it a go. I think it's worth a playthrough.
Well, based on your run through, there's a few parents listening to this show right now that have just broken out in cold white sweats because they've probably bought little Timmy that for Christmas. And after hearing this, he's gonna, what are we gonna do, husband? I don't know, wife. I don't know why they flipped, and that didn't make any sense.
I've got my hidden gem this week, so I might be able to save them a few quid for that.
Okay, well, before we go any further, I'll just quickly run through what I've been playing. I've been playing some God of War Ragnarok. I think we've pretty much dropped exactly where I am on that. And I promised last episode, and I'm a man that keeps promises, that I would go back and dig out the Horizon Zero Dawn and the DLC Forbidden Wilds, or
Frozen Wilds.
Frozen Wilds. There's me getting confused. I made a baby out of Frozen Wilds and Forbidden West, which is pertinent because I've just met Hephaestus, or whatever his name is, and that's obviously a prelude to what happens in Forbidden West.
Mhm.
A little bit sort of weirded out by the game, actually, because I've gone and done the DLC, I've finished the main story, or what it feels like a part where it should have had a mini credit roll. But no, it's kind of that part of the journey ends, and then you're just ordered to go out and kill 5 fire claws. And I'm thinking, well, I kind of get the idea that we're sweeping up the loose ends here, but am I going to have to get these done before the DLC is actually done? I don't know. So yeah, the game has been, that DLC has been an enjoyable segue, reminding me again, the original Horizon probably pales a little bit next to Forbidden West, but still is quite a beautiful looking game at times. It's been left behind a little bit by the PS5 version of the sequel, but other than that, it's still the same fun mechanics. Playing that on a PS4 Pro, and I'll be honest with you, I'm just shooting at neons. I have no idea. That game, sometimes when it gets busy, you're rolling around, so you never see your character fully stood up. You're zooming in and firing at neons. Suddenly you're knocked back. Suddenly you're just shooting at anything that glows pink in the hope that you're instilling damage. I've got this, I can't remember the name of it now, but it fires, you can have like 75 darts in a pouch, and it's kind of like a mini machine gun. And if you roll in and get close, you can makes this really great noise. Obviously, because it's not fired by gunpowder, it has to make like this clickety click noise as it ratchets back. That is a really awful sound effect. And if you're listening now and you've pulled your earphones out, I do apologize.
So with Horizon, though, I think like, to me, I think that's one of the most underrated like games of the last generation, though, because like Horizon has the curse of always coming out and being overshadowed by another game that's like right there being released alongside of it. So I feel like a lot of people really slept on Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West for that matter. But like with the Frozen Wilds DLC that you're playing, like after you get done with the main quest line of that, you can pretty much stop, because like everything else feels like bloat, so to speak, just for the sake of padding out content.
And that's exactly where I'm at with it. You know, we went in and we did Hephaestus and we killed that main area. And yes, it was alluded in the storyline that these demonic super creatures had escaped, these pretty nails fire claws, if I'm honest. Like, I got pretty adept at taking down a fire claw. And I thought, yeah, fine. I'll go give these a bloody mouth. There's no issue at all. And went to the first one and basically got slapped on my backside. And I thought, right, okay, what am I doing? Because I've just used this strategy and you went down. I'm using this strategy again, and basically I'm like a mosquito to a giant. And a little frustrating, but I'm sure I just need to hone my skill sets and my weapon loadout, and I'll bring that son of a gun down. Other than that, I've been playing some more Horizon Chase the Horizon Express, the Ayrton Senna version of it. So I've got one more season to finish on that before that's done. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Again, we talked about Grid. Grid's certainly the most physics-based, realistic racer ever on planet Earth compared to Chase the Horizon Turbo Express. Sometimes I find it quite frustrating when you're going to do a move on someone, and as you move, they move, and you hit them. Because it's an arcade racer, no damage. Because it's like an outrun style game, your speed gets nerfed to 0. They get a spood beast and go, and you're like, that's so frustrating, because I had a rhythm, and the AI, now it does say that some of the AI is super aggressive, so will move to block you, but there's no repercussions for them for doing that. And I just find it, I'm going to win the race anyway. So why do you throw these obstacles in my way all the time? It's annoying. I just want to, if I go left, I expect to go left without in the last second someone, I know accidents happen in Formula One, but no one's cutting the nose off another. It's not real, George. First of all, it's a video game. Secondly, it's a very unrealistic recreation of a video game. More homage to Super Monaco GP on the Mega Drive / Genesis. And I think I've picked up a few games in the sale that I'm looking forward to. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
That's a solid one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Little Workshop, which is a PS4 sort of indie game where you create these factories on a desk, basically.
Oh,
they create. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued. It was affordable. So, and also public service announcement. I saw And if anyone in the Discord or in the wider community knows how to fix this problem, come back to me, because a Google search, again, I'm a very rare character living in a very small subsection of the internet, but I saw Helldivers in the sale. I thought, yeah, do you know what? It's on PS3. Perfect. It's on PS4 stroke PS5. Perfect. It's on Vita. Yes. Yes. Went to download it on the Vita. It's in my download menu. Perfect. Not supported on this device.
Oh,
That is not a sign you want to see after throwing down £15. Because my wish to play it on the PS4, minimal to none. My wish to play it on the Vita, massive. So, yeah, disappointed. It's one of those. If I now go to download it on PS3, it doesn't work. PS5 might get Tombstone pile driven through a paving slam, if I'm honest with you. I wouldn't sacrifice the Vita or the PS3, but the PS5, done. Throat shot out of here. Okay, with that all said and done, gentlemen, I think it's time for us to dip into the news.
Sounds good.
Unless you guys have got anything else to share with me about what you've been playing.
I've just got my hidden gem, if you want me to quickly whip through that.
Oh, of course. I've forgotten the song, so we'll just call it RGT's Opal Fruit, because the whole song has slipped my memory. Opal Fruit, a.k.a. Hidden Gem. Hopefully this time doesn't include buying a £4,000 system. We're looking for an affordable gem.
This is an affordable
everyday
gem.
Man can pick up.
This is under £10. You probably pick it up for £5-6. It is Velocity 2X.
What system's this on?
It's on most systems. I would recommend playing PS4, because if you get the physical copy, you get the Critical Mass Edition, which you get CD soundtrack in there. You get the DLC. You get the triple pack DLC with that. And that even brand new, if you pick that up sealed, that's £8, £9, £10. You probably get it less than that. It's by Future Lab. I think originated from the PC. It's like a puzzle shooter come platformer. I don't know if you guys ever played it.
Wait, a puzzle shooter?
Yeah.
Stroke platformer?
Yeah.
With that name, I expected it to be a racing game.
No.
I did too.
Yeah, it's like a very sort of weak story. You're in space, you capture aliens, you're trying to escape and rescue people as you go. That's pretty much it. The actual game itself, when you're in the shooter mode, you have a warp factor on there, so you can speed up the ship and speed the screen up as you go, and you rescue people. They're just like a blue block, but these people you'll rescue, you shoot the blocks and collect them as you go. But you'll see a barrier either side, sometimes in different places. You press square on your controller, you can move the target and then warp over to that side. But you have to warp, otherwise you crash into the wall. And you see that's a combination of sort of puzzle where you have to keep warping between places. You have boss fights where you shoot. And as the game goes on, you then do run and platform levels, where you're running through collecting these sort of pink shards. And you use warp in that as well. So if there's a jump you can't make, you jump, square, warp across. So it's almost like a double jump. But then as you go further along, you'll have missions where you're in the shooter mission, then you can dock the ship, do a bit of the platform and come back in your ship and then carry on. Soundtrack is absolutely superb. The soundtrack is, and if you get the Critical Mass Edition, you will get that CD with it. The soundtrack is phenomenal. And it is very addictive. Very good game. Highly recommend it. I mean, like I say, if you can pick it up for £10, you'll have hours of fun on this. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Velocity 2X.
Now, if you ever wanted a recommendation, take it from the man who's built a shed out of games and then sits in it like a game bear. Right? Settle down for hibernation. Yeah. Just for reference, everybody, I said game. Game. Game bear. Okay. Sat in his shack of games, getting fat for winter, stuffing himself with Velocity. Yeah. That is a wonderful Opal Fruit. I expected a slightly older Hidden Gem.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's nice art too.
Did that come with a vinyl?
I think if you've got the big collector's one, you've got the CD in there. So
yeah.
But it's on Vita as well. You can get it on Vita, you can get it on Xbox One, but I think they're all downloadable. You can
Business has just picked up. Hello.
Yeah.
A Vita game I've not played.
There is a physical on the Switch, although a strictly limited game, so expect to pay, £100 for that.
Mhm.
So I'd definitely recommend the PS4 version because it is all the DLC. It is the CD soundtrack. It's also got a documentary with the making of it on your start screen, so you can watch that as well. And
That's slick.
That's all under £10. So, boom, Christmas present.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like video games, podcasts, and reminiscing? I'm actor, video game writer, and total sweetie pie Connor Savage McCabe, and on each episode of Call Me By Your Game, I sit down with a guest for an intimate look at a special game from their past. Did you and your dad beat Spyro the Dragon over the holidays? Or was Halo 4 the one thing that united your roommates during your senior year of college? Stories like these are what Call Me By Your Game is about. From video game content creator Janet Garcia to Hades voice actor Courtney Vinay's, I interview wonderful comedians and game industry friends about these memories. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
Well, if little Timmy was getting Grid Legends for Christmas, that's now been pulled out and sent to the unliked uncle with an Xbox. Grid on PS5, there you go. And little Timmy's now getting Velocity on the PS4, but don't worry, it's got a CD soundtrack. What's a CD soundtrack? It's like an MP3, but cooler, boy. Merry Christmas. RGT said this one is a hidden gem.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
No
It's time for the news to scour the very darkest region of the internet to bring you the latest stories. First up, we talked about driving games. There's driving games in the news. Some would think that we've planned this, but it's just a happy accident. I'll go first with this one. Only one careful lady owner. How's that about that for a headline? Sony's gradually been porting large chunks of its catalogue to PC and even acquired Dutch developer Nix's to expedite its efforts. With rumours of Returnal coming to storefronts like Steam soon, developer Polyphony Digital has hinted that Gran Turismo 7 could soon see a release on computers in the near future. Series creator Kazunori Yamauchi commented briefly on the possibility in an interview with GT Planet at the Gran Turismo World Finals in Monaco. Who said playing video games gets you nowhere. Asked if his team would consider a conversion of its latest acclaimed sim racer, the Outer admitted, yes, I do think so. It's worth noting that the release was listed in an all-encompassing NVIDIA leak, which has turned out to be largely true. Yamauchi was eager to temper expectations, however, explaining that the title is effectively designed to take full advantage of PlayStation hardware. There are not many platforms which could run the game in 4K 60 FPS natively, so one easy way we could make that possible is to narrow down the platform. It's not a very easy subject, but of course we're looking into it and considering it. Gran Turismo 7 is obviously already a multi-format title as it spans 2 generations of PlayStation, both PS5 and PS4. As such, we can't imagine there'd be too many issues converting it to computers, even if it came with some hefty hardware requirements attached. While there are a number of racing sims already available on PC, there's nothing quite like Gran Turismo, and we reckon this would prove popular. Thoughts on another PlayStation heavyweight going across to the PC master race for them to pick up across its bones like a starling dead?
I think it's a brilliant idea going to PC. There's a lot of sim racers who use PCs rather than consoles. There's a big market there for that. And it's a good online game. I mean, GT Sport had a massive following online.
It did.
And it would have been even bigger with a PC port. And most people's PCs now, they'll run that easy enough. I mean, guys have got some big PCs and graphics cards and bits and pieces, so these guys will run that fine. I think that's a great idea. I think, surprisingly, I thought that would have been one of the first ones that went over to PC.
The question. As a gamer with a PlayStation console, are you annoyed that 7's going straight there pretty much, or would you prefer, well, this is only a rumor at the moment, so let's just imagine it's still 12 months away. Would it not be better to give them a little sniff of sport first, test the waters, see how it handles, or do they just go straight in with the main meal?
I think you go straight in.
Straight in, yeah, definitely. I don't think, because at the end of the day, the PC players will then be playing GT Sport thinking, oh, hang on, we want to be playing GT7, and I think they're trying to get that, the GT Sport, the World Championship, where they used to take that around the world. I used to watch that a lot, and that is a phenomenal thing they take round with the drivers on the stages, bits and pieces. The pandemic really hit that hard. So I think they're going to try and get Gran Turismo 7 back to where that was.
I don't want you to panic too much, mate, but they are currently in Monaco living the high life while playing the video game.
Yeah. Well, they were racing from their bedrooms, so they're getting it back on track now. But
they're well back on track now.
Yeah. So I think getting GT7, getting the PC community involved as well, get big numbers online. I think it's all good. I think it's the way to go.
Okay. Seb, are you a GT player?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I need a compelling story to drive me in like single player games a lot of the time. Either compelling story or like I need the gameplay loop to be like pristine and crisp. And like racing games don't quite hit that. I guess you could say bliss for me yet. Well, really, but like. And it's nothing against racing games. I do think they're like premium experiences. It's just the genre has never really spoken to me personally.
Of all the games in that genre, which one has spoken to you loudest and clearest? And obviously, we know the rest, the wheat and the chaff, they fall by the wayside. But is there one racing game that you would say, do you know what, George? I can't live without. I've sacrificed everything, but I can't sacrifice this.
I think the best my favorite experience with a racing game recently has been Forza Horizon 5, and I do think that one is very good. I think it's a very good game. I think it has a lot of extra content for a lot of people to explore and play. I do think like the visual effects of are going through Mexico is pristine, and I think everything about that game is like the chef's kiss. But I fell off pretty hard, I gotta admit, because like I lacked the motivator to keep playing that without a driving force there. And I'm sorry, but like the Hot Wheels expansion wasn't enough to like really just keep me there. So I still haven't found the racer that's just like, okay, this is like the racer for me, and now I'm still going to stay on this. Like, this is the game that's going to like propel me into liking this genre. But I think that game is the closest it's come so far.
You've actually you've saved me from myself, because it was such an interesting experience. I've forgotten it, but this week I've also been playing that Hot Wheels Unleashed on PS5, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But it's also lacking that story campaign that you might be looking for, obviously. But yeah, that was a fun game. So it's a shame that didn't add a little bit of something to your enjoyment. Do you think it's the open world element of that and the discovery that kept you going with that, rather than just straight track after track?
I actually think, to his credit, the open world is to its benefit, because like the fact that you have so many different types of races or types of like events that you can do, and you can actually drive up to those, I think is to its benefit rather than its detriment. Because if you were to going like straight like event after event or like race after race, I think it kind of wears at people, especially people who aren't like super into the genre, versus this experience where you can decide, hey, I think I want to play like a drag race, or I think I actually want to play a event where I'm doing like one of the big stunts, like whether I'm like trying to ramp off of a mountain, so to speak. So I think that variety and the open world sort of plays to its advantage more so than its detriment.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, Gran Turismo spreading itself wide on every system. So that's interesting. Maybe it might even appear on Stadia, RGT. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't hold out a lot of hope for Stadia. Them controllers are getting very dusty at the moment, aren't they?
They are. They're, like I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, a rather interesting paperweight, if nothing else. Next bit of news. I don't want you to run around stabbing each other for the next piece of news, but who would like to read that? Seb, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll take it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this next piece of news comes from the world of Callisto Protocol. And, we're going to subtitle this as "You Can't Die Yet." So there's been a bit of kerfuffle surrounding Callisto Protocol's upcoming season pass. To put it simply, it's been alleged that some of the most gruesome deaths animations have been paywalled. the travesty, by the way. Some fans are aggrieved that developers striking distance studios could be holding back content. In this case, those aforementioned bonus death animations, in order to rake in additional cash. That, according to bigwig Glenn Schofield, is simply not the case. Glenn said, "To be clear, we're not holding anything back from the main game for the season pass. We haven't even started work on this content yet. It's all new stuff that we'll be working in kind of around the new year. Fans have asked for more deaths, and we're making it a priority next year." Responding to a fan, he added, "We put every freaking thing that we've done in in shipping the game." So what do you think about this story, Phyllis?
Well, it's not, let's face it. If this was true, it wouldn't be the first time. Let's rewind back to the horse armor from Oblivion. Let's fast forward to a million other games that have literally shipped stuff on the disc and then basically paywalled it behind a DLC unlock. He claims that this is not what they've been doing, but at the same token, it really feels like they have done in some ways. So I presume to keep themselves safe from fan ire, they've literally shipped the game as it is. If you want to add extra content, a little bit more of those death animations, you can get the season pass and then you can ratchet up your experience. You know, if there's enough death animations in there not to make me feel like I'm getting the short straw, happy. If these other ones are like more ridiculous sort of big head style versions or really sort of specific death animations, then yeah, I'm probably going to be roundabout okay with it. They need to do something in the modern world. We know that even at $70, a game's probably not that sustainable. And you say, what, George? No, believe it or not, it may not be. But they also want to unlock extra cash to help the next game and the game after that and the game after that. So if $70 is the break even for them, fair enough. You know, they're going to be wanting to put some money behind the bar, aren't they? They're going to want some profit, but maybe they don't. Been a single player story game, maybe they're going to need some of these elements in there and the season pass to keep this game alive post release, and therefore some form of a revenue stream to keep things working for them. We've been through the dark days with DLC, really, really dark days, where we've had some quite heinous things that have either A, been locked on the disc, or B, a new hat for a character, which, you know, is a little bit taking the mickey. But in this instance, I want to hold out belief that Glenn's being a good egg, and these death animations really are only going to be for people who fall madly in love with the game and have played it 400 times and want to see Matey's face ripped off just that ever so slightly differently. Based on, you know, I quite like a good death animation. Last of Us is some of the best ones.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. The whole time you were talking, I was like, man, Last of Us 2's animations is spectacular.
But Dead Space, from memory, had some as well. So as part of homage to all of this that's going on, it makes absolute sense. And a good death animation, I know this sounds strange, but in a game with a good death animation, it makes me scared to die. Therefore, adding another layer of, I do not want to see this guy get his eyes ripped out by this thing again. So it does add to the experience. And in a survival horror, yes, please, mummy. Will I pay for the season pass? No, thank you, mummy. Probably not. What's your thoughts, Seb? Are you happy or sad?
I don't think it really matters, to be honest. Like, I think the people who want to play this game are going to fall madly in love with it if it lives up to expectations. And I don't think maybe 3 to 5 death animations is going to make or break anyone's experience whatsoever.
Definitely not.
No, for sure not. And I don't think, from what I've seen of the trailers so far, there is a lot of death animations in the trailers, and I know they're going to deliver everything that they've shown us in those trailers. So if that's the case, then I think the experience that people are going to get with death animations is going to live up to their expectations, and missing 3 or 4 really won't make any difference whatsoever.
RGT, I know you're a fan of Dead Space. Or I've been rather angry at you and trying to force your arm up your back to get you to play what's now an aged game, but certainly one that looks great on PlayStation 3, the greatest console of all the time. Yoshida, pay me my money. I've delivered on this for you. How do you feel about this? Oh, and first of all, are you getting Callisto Protocol at launch?
I won't be getting it at launch. I need to work my way through the Dead Spaces first. I want to get myself in the mood for those. I think a lot of this as well, I think with these companies, don't you find they leak this themselves? You can see they've leaked this to just see where people lie with this, see what the reaction is.
Nice take. Yeah.
You get a lot of this now, don't you? There's always a leak before a game. God of War Ragnarok, there was a leak before that, and they just seem to test the water where they are. I mean,
do you think that they have a little get together in the office? Like, who's the one that can't keep a secret? Oh, Dave in IT. He can't keep his mouth shut. Tell him, be on Twitter by the afternoon, stand back and assess the room. If they're not for it, give them it for free.
I think they'd literally just have someone in the media department who's got a pseudonym on Twitter and Reddit and bits and pieces, and they just drop these, I've heard this, I've heard that, and just see what the reaction is, And I think that's literally just testing the market, isn't it, really? I think it's what it is. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, different death animations, doesn't take away from the game. If you're still doing the same levels, you're still doing the same missions in the same way, but the death animation is slightly different. It's no skin off my nose if people if you're into the game and you want to play all the DLCs and bits they add in and you get that as a bonus, well you'll pay for it. If not, you'll still enjoy the game. So just
Seb,
see.
Question for you. Another question for you, Seb. Sorry there, RGT. Thank you.
No,
I think you're absolutely right. Are you day one for you need a new game now? God of War's done, right?
Yeah, I think my dilemma is that I'm a chicken. Like, I am a chicken who's like, I have to pick and choose my horror games kind of carefully because I'm scared of cat. Like, I legitimately am. Like, I am a person who like, for sure. I'm a person who like really falls into the trap of being like super immersed in like video games, especially with like the DualSense like headphones for the PS5. Like those things really like put me in the space, put me in the zone in the game. And I kid you not, like I had to like power quit my way through what was it, Resident Evil Biohazard, Resident Evil 7, because I was just like, you know what? I'm too immersed. This is becoming a little too real for me. I'm gonna have bad dreams. And sure as I'll get out. I actually did have a bad dream about that game. So I'm like,
oh no.
So like,
oh, no.
I'm one of those people who kind of has to like pick and choose my moments. So I don't know. I'll kind of have to like read the room and read like the feedback on whether or not this is like an actual super scary game or if this is more like Resident Evil Village, to where it's more action centric, like action horror.
I feel it's going to, based on a Dead Space game, it's going to be more action horror. But equally so, with modern graphics, that might just elevate this to actually being really quite scary. So I'm day one. I was hoping I'd have God of War finished by now, but time's been a little bit thin, but getting some time back next week, so that'll be great. So hopefully I can dust that off and then immediately slide into Callisto Protocol, that I am quite excited about. It looks absolutely fantastic. So
trailers look fantastic on that.
Fingers crossed. It's not what you would traditionally. It's not something I would traditionally play at Christmas. I like to play a Christmas game, be it Die Hard Trilogy or Ark and Origins, or any other game themed around Christmas. Miles Morales, for instance. But this time, I'm going to put a Santa hat on and I'm going to play Callisto. Maybe I can imagine it is Christmas in the game.
Yeah.
There we go. Next bit of news, RGT. What we got?
This bit of news is pay tribute. Microsoft's outrageously large bid to purchase Activision Blizzard has resulted in a protracted, painful period of negotiations. Without getting too into the weeds with all this, the short version is Sony is trying to prevent the deal from going through, and the Xbox firm is, of course, pushing for regulations to let it happen. The latest round of statements has been made public, and in Microsoft's take, it claims Sony's first-party output is better than its own. The company's point is that Sony has more exclusive games, so it doesn't necessarily need the likes of Call of Duty to succeed. However, Microsoft's statement says many of Sony's first-party games are of better quality than its own output. To put it another way, the firm has officially documented an admission that its own titles are inferior to Sony's. It goes on to call Sony the dominant console provider and a powerful games publisher, apparently equivalently in size to Activision and nearly double the size of Microsoft's game publishing business. It's just one of many rebuffals to Sony's own report to this whole song and dance, which, by the way, makes allusions to the inevitable PS6. Microsoft is at pains to point out Sony will be just fine without Call of Duty positioning itself as an underdog or making claims like the above, all to try and get the acquisition locked down. It's quite exhausting, all this, isn't it?
Well, before we dissect that, there's a little bit more because these two have been going at it like divorcing parents, fighting over how much of little Timmy's time they get. So this next bit of news, you make card games now. Sony and Microsoft's very public war of words continues with paperwork published by the UK government today outlining PlayStation's stance against Xbox's unprecedented near $70 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. In the document, the Japanese giant's legal team responds to a point from its Redmond rival, which suggests Nintendo has been able to compete fine without access to the all-important Call of Duty franchise. The Nintendo Switch has, of course, become a powerhouse platform, but it competes less directly with the PlayStation and Xbox, offering a portable, more family-friendly alternative. Sony's legal team argues that this exposes Microsoft's true strategy. It claims Microsoft wants PlayStation to become like Nintendo, so to become a less close, less effective competitor to Xbox post-transaction. Xbox will become the one-stop shop for all the best-selling shooter franchises on console: Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, Doom, Overwatch, some might say, and it would then be free from serious competitive pressure. It's hard to argue with, really, while some may propose that PlayStation has first-person shooter franchises of its own, like Killzone. It's been almost 10 years since the last installment in that series, and Sony also argues that such is the scale of Call of Duty, it's effectively impossible to create a rival brand at this point. We're not sure whether Microsoft truly wants PlayStation to become like Nintendo, in their words, but we can see the point. As things stand, there's an overlap between the Xbox Series X and S and PS5, where both consoles compete for similar customers. Taking away Call of Duty would tip the scale significantly in Microsoft's favour for a lot of those players. So this week, in the ongoing spat between the big green and the big blue, we've come down to basically your homework's better than my homework, and now you're a boutique, you'll survive as a boutique Japanese developer. What do you guys go into RGT first? What do you make of all this shenanigans? And buried within there, the needle in a haystack, which is the illusion of the inevitable, much like Thanos, PS6. RGT, what do you make of all this nonsense?
Oh, it's so ongoing. It's all you see in your gaming feeds and bits and pieces now. And it is, on my point, it is getting very boring, this argument. I see from both sides. I mean, Microsoft, they've shelled the cash. They've bought Activision. If they make it exclusive, I don't think they will, because you're cutting out 2/3 of your player base. I don't know why they would make it exclusive. I mean, I think it would be a disaster move. I mean, you're going to make millions and millions off Sony players, because that's where the majority of the players are at the moment. But on the other hand, if they did, that's theirs. You know, if they've bought Activision, it's up to them if they want to make it exclusive. On the other hand, from Sony, I can see the point of wanting to keep it on there. It's a bit of a cash cow, you know. That's a constant income. People are always playing it. People love those games, the Call of Duty players. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I know I saw somewhere that I think Microsoft were claiming it's going to be on Sony for another 10 years. Will Call of Duty be that big in 10 years?
That's always been my argument. Everyone's panicking about this game that is now, but when they're on the second rehash of a name that carries enough favour in the fan world for it to support the game, of a game that's now 10 years old but bears no resemblance to that game, they're just buying a name. I think Call of Duty is on its greatest hits tour, and it's about done. So what's all this about? Equally so, I find the reference to Seb. Question for you. Controversial. So feel free to sit on the fence. It's totally up to you. Do Sony make better games? Microsoft say Sony make better games than them. Is the answer for Microsoft to make a better game, or is the answer for Microsoft to keep buying franchises until they can find a hit?
I'm reminded of like what a lot of people say about FromSoft games, where people say get good. I think that like phrase really hits hard and is really appropriate for this situation, because like I don't think Microsoft has a portfolio as strong as Sony in any regards whatsoever. I don't, like they do have shooters, and I admit like their shooter library is impressive, but none of those shooters hold a candle to any of the major triple party games that PlayStation has to offer. Put it like this: when was the last time you seen a Microsoft game, like a Microsoft Studios game, get nominated for Game of the Year? It's been a very, very long time. And it's been a very long time. Outside of like, I think IGN did give Forza Horizon their Game of the Year award last year, but outside of that, like the industry didn't. It Takes Two won at the Game Awards last year, so it is like the standard there is PlayStation does have a better category, like portfolio of games. But I think the real story about all this, and not to be like super malicious, but like how like insulting does it have to be for like the other studios that Microsoft has acquired that PlayStation only got up in arms about Blizzard? Like they really didn't care. Like Bethesda, they were like, okay, you can have Bethesda. We basically do our own single player games anyways. That's up to that quality, or if not better, arguably. But like with Activision Blizzard, they were like, no, that's our Call of Duty box. You can't check off our Call of Duty machine, so to speak. And like you were saying earlier, I do think Call of Duty is hitting its sunset, because like I know it is the most like the highest selling game year after year, but it's not necessarily the most popular game and like in pop media culture right now. You do have your Fortnites, you do have your, for better or for worse, your Overwatches. You do have like you do have other games that are like starting to take up that share there. And to like Microsoft's credit about them, saying like, hey, Nintendo's done just fine with this. PlayStation could use this as an opportunity to make their own Splatoon. And I'm not saying make their own like exact version of that game. I'm just saying like they have a very, very cool, like diverse portfolio of studios that they can actually make their own version of Splatoon and completely own the market, or at least like dictate their own messaging, just like Nintendo has done with Splatoon.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the same with, if they've got 10 years, say they sign up to 10 years, Microsoft say, right, we'll do a contract. You've got it for 10 years, Call of Duty. There's 10 years there to make almost their own rival game, their own exclusive game, their own shooter. I mean, you've got Guerrilla Games, they're all in with Sony. They've done kill zones, haven't they? And they've done bits and pieces. They could probably do a version of a shooter or a different take of it. There's 10 years to make one. For sure. That's what I'm thinking.
I have another question for you both, if I may. You made me think of it, Seb, actually, when you feel like it was Microsoft have kind of insulted the Bethesda and the other acquisitions. But more importantly, what about those studios of theirs that have been towing the line for quite some time? The Gears guys, the Halo guys, the Fable guys as now. How do they feel? Do you think sitting under the Microsoft banner, feeling proud, going into work every day, sitting down, doing the best they can do to make the best game they can make, and Microsoft poo-poos their own work? I mean, that's how I would feel if I was head of one of those studios. But hang on a minute there, pal. We make good games. And what's it going to take for Microsoft to create their first 10 out of 10 game?
Just hearing the stories, and y'all have probably like spoken on this because y'all do news stories, but like the culture of Xbox Game Studios hasn't been great over the last, year and a half. There's been many stories coming out of that like there's been rocky relationships. There's been, allegations. I won't go into the allegation reports, but like there's been like negative allegations against, some of the workings within those studios. So I don't necessarily think they've built a winning culture, so to speak. This feels like to use a sports metaphor, this feels like a rebuilding franchise, like the whole platform where they're trying to find, what's going to be their new like star players going forward. They do have those, the OG players such as like Halo, which, for better or for worse, Infinite came and it kind of went. I hate to say it, but like it hit the ground running, and it basically sprinted 100 yards and had to catch his breath, so to speak. Like,
it did, which is
really
a shame
did.
because if that could have captured that momentum, if it could have pulled curious players in via Games Pass, a kid who's been playing Grounded or Minecraft suddenly sees this green armored dude. Is Master Chief too much of a 2000s character, much like Gears of War, Marcus's Phoenix? Do these guys need a bit of Kratos reinvention to make them more appealing to a modern audience? Is a bro shooter done?
No, I don't think the genre is done, but I do think to answer your question, I do think like the games are leaning towards that Kratos mentality of like, we want more fleshed out characters. We want people who seem more human, more relatable. And I do think you see in Halo Infinite, if you played the campaign, like they do try to kind of make Master Chief seem as human as he's ever seemed before. Like he has moments where he feels grief for the soldiers around him. He has moments to where he feels like the weight of the situation kind of like weighs on him, and you can see his shoulders kind of droop. Versus whereas like in the older trilogy where he's a machine basically, to where he's just like, I'm on my next mission. So I do think like they're moving in that right direction. It's just so slow, and the cadence in which these games actually come out are so slow that they can't really build momentum like PlayStation has. PlayStation puts out a game, to their credit, almost every quarter. Like every quarter a new PlayStation tentpole drops, versus on the Microsoft side of the fence, like we gotten, since the Xbox Series S and X have come out, we've gotten 2 major first party games, and that's been 2 years. And they both came out within the same calendar year and months of each other. So I don't, there's a lot that they have to course
just
correct
having those
over
games.
I actually think, in regards to what you're saying, I think PlayStation actually have their quarterly titles, but then they also have a third-party game, either of their own or somebody else's, that they get behind and push every month. It almost feels like PlayStation is serving you up a game or a third-party game, and they make it feel curated and specific to the point where it feels like it's on their platform and really only on their platform, although it's not. You get these chunky every month, be it an indie, AA game, AAA game, Sony game, indie, AA, triple, boof, and it keeps hitting. Doof, doof, doof. You never get off the machine, and I think that's probably to their credit, but also something that Microsoft need to pay attention to, because Games Pass is a good offering, especially if you're relatively new to either gaming or the Xbox brand in itself. Big back catalogue to go through. Got all the Gears, Halos, Forzas. Great. There's lots to keep you chunking on, and there's all the little indie games. There's all the back catalogue stuff. It's a great experience. But if you had a reason to come every single month, again, and it's back to my big bugbear, curation. So much stuff on there. Hoist up and offer me the best morsels, literally at the top of the table. So it's like a restaurant with a massive menu. When you've got a massive, sometimes you're like, to be honest, I don't know what to eat. I'll eat what I always eat, Minecraft. Oh, but sir, may I show you Halo Infinite? Look at this stunning ray tracing graphics. Look at this big open world like you've never experienced it before. Look at the small hints of green in the Master Chief's armor. Smell the grass, freshly cut alien grass. There is no better. But we don't get that. And I think it's a shame. And Sony are guilty of it as well as they build their offering.
Yeah.
One has to wonder, would curation of this pot of games help? I'm a kid. I've got a PS5. Mum and Dad have gone crazy. They've bought me the full subscription package. Am I going to play Ape Escape? No, let me answer that for you. Not a chance in hell that kid's playing that.
No, and it's so hard to search for these games on there as well. When I go through PS Plus, I've got the premium, and you go through looking for games, and it's just such a headache because when you're trying to browse, you can't browse what you want to browse, if that makes sense. It's such just, if you look at games, it's just everything on there is chucked at you. There you go. And you're like, oh, know more about me, curate it properly, in your areas and your genres and your platform, whatever. But yeah, I don't think either firm has nailed that yet for the
It's annoying because Astrobot gave a great way to people. Basically, that was Sony saying, we think these are our games that define us. Basically, Astrobot did a great job of detailing those footnotes in the history of PlayStation. Why don't they just take all of that, stick it on the dash?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
All those games mentioned, all those characters, all those little bits, have a little bit of a mini documentary streaming. Instead of streaming me another skin for Fortnite, stream me the history of Ape Escape, why it's innovative, why it used the dual sticks in the way that it did, and why that's interesting for gaming. And although you might not finish it, guys, at least say you've played it. Oh, good idea, PlayStation. Streamed, played, done, on to the next one. But at least have had a taste. And Microsoft could do the same. Like, poof, guess what? It's Halo Day. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, it launched this time all the way here. Here's using the SSD. We're going to drop you into 30 minutes into the game. There's a really intense firefight section that happens right here and now. One of the best gaming experience you've ever had. Straight in the door, straight into it. Once that moment's finished, back on the dash. Do you want to download the game? Yes or no? Some would imagine with ideas that fall out my brain like this, I'm in the wrong job.
Well, it's also they try and suggest stuff for you, and it just doesn't work. That'll have on there, RGT, you've played Uncharted 4.
Yes.
We think you'll like mini golf. And you're like, how is that? How is that even linked? And you just think, that needs a bit of work on that.
Definitely. Seb, do you have any more thoughts on this whole Xbox Sony acquisition, lawsuit?
My major thing is that I think this is just going to happen. I think this is Sony basically just like trying to slow down slow down the bleeding, so to speak, which to my, argument earlier, I would just tell Sony to like, let this one go. You still have it for, the next decade or so. And that gives you plenty of time to kind of like, kind of work your own magic behind the scenes, because you have your own studios, and your studios, besides, Destruction All-Stars, have been killing it lately. Like, let them work their magic. And you just got Bungie. So I'm like, let Bungie create your next big exclusive. And the big word here is exclusive, like modern first party shooter. And if you do that, you basically take off all the pressure that you had on Call of Duty to begin with.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of the news. Now, we normally do community corrections, but I don't think I've seen on the Discord that we've made a boo-boo this last week, or maybe because 2 weeks have passed since the last episode, and I apologise for that. But RGT got stuck in RGT tried to put Mrs. RGT in the commission position. He put his back out, which then locked him in the commission position. Bobby and I were there, and I went to help you get out of the commission position, slipped and fell, and then kicked Bobby's legs out from under him and put him in the commission position as well. Yeah. So no episode last week.
That's an unforgettable weekend.
Seb's like, oh, goodness gracious me. I don't want to be in the commission position. That sounds painful. But we don't even know what it is yet, so we're just working that one out.
Yeah.
So no community corrections. So we got away with lackluster knowledge once again. But I have a question: did we miss anything? Do you have an opinion or take on the news we missed? If so, RGT, how would they get in contact and let them know that George knows less about gaming than a toddler knows about algebra?
Well, you can send us at questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com, or you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter. Or if you're new to it and haven't joined yet, jump in the Discord. Come and see us on Discord, and you can highlight all our many mistakes.
Every week I come up with a new way to get people to think, yeah, I want to join the Discord. Well, this is a call out. For some reason, and I don't know why, although I'm eternally grateful, this show is massive in Germany. And I like I say, I'm very grateful, but really can't figure out why. Unless they're looking at improving their English, in which case this would be a really bad show to start with.
Yeah.
But please one of you jump in the Discord and let us know what we're either doing A, right, or B, wrong, that makes you listen to us for such a long... The stats have been so far skewed towards Germany now that the UK and USA are in second and third position. And I think we're less popular in the UK than we are in America, and more popular in Germany. Go figure. I can't work it out. It keeps me awake at night, so I'm hoping someone, some kind German fellow or lady will jump in the Discord and say, the reason is this. If you play the podcast backwards, it's basically a cross-stitching podcast in German. You guys are geniuses. How did you do this? I do not know, Hans, but I'm sure we'll work it out together. Now, someone who certainly understands how emails work, Sebastion, you reached out to me on an email. You said, hey, listen, guess what? Let's do something. And I went off and listened to your podcast and thought, there's someone I immediately want to know. Then you suggest, hey, why don't I regale you with tales of indie games you guys may have slept on? Freudian slip, called us gays. You guys may have slept on. And I said, yes, let's have some curated indie gold hits in front of us. But before we do, Seb, why don't you give us a little bit of a background to the single player experience and the Pro Nerd Report, how people might find them, what they might find, which is awesome, by the way, and how also you need to make sure that they go and know immediately where your podcast is so they can be soothed by your, what can only be described as sultry tones.
Yeah, so, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sebastion Mauldin. I'm with the Pro Nerd Report, which is kind of like your IGN, so mixed in with a little more like of a street, like a local flavor, to where like I mostly talk about single player games on that. So I feel like a lot of the single player representation is kind of lacking in the world where we live in, to where a lot of people are, talking about the big multiplayer games, or like all these multiplayer games such as like Overwatch, Call of Duty, and all the microtransactions and of the world. I was just like, we need a place that just focuses primarily on single player games for like those people who really want a community, or just to talk about like some of the really cool titles that they're missing out on because of all the noise and all the buzz that multiplayer games kind of take up. No disrespect to the multiplayer games. They're fun. I love playing with people, but there's something special about getting immersed into a world that someone's created, or getting immersed into like a special story that someone has like put out there. So I really wanted to show love to the single player game. So I created the Single Player Experience, the video game podcast that lets you know which single player games are worth your time and effort so that you can have the best single player experience. So you can find the podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, the Spotify's of the world, the Apple Podcasts, and you can also go to thepronerdreport.com where you can find some of my written pieces. I do video game reviews, opinions, and post all the podcast episodes there as well. So I also have a podcast on there called the Notable Nerds Podcast, where I mostly talk about notable nerds who are killing it in the world. Recently, I talked to the writers behind the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. So if you want to hear about like some of the stories about like Ugly Sonic and how they reacted to that when they heard about the backlash of that, definitely check that podcast out. So check out the pronerdreport.com if you want to like really get ingrained into good single player experiences out there.
Wonderful. Well, when someone sends in the emails of the show that that professes to be a single player guru, one has to imagine, I like to think that you are my spirit animal. And I want you to guide us through the spectral forest and take us on a journey of indie games. Let's face it, I most definitely probably did sleep on, and RGT's probably only got a passing knowledge of these games. How do you want to do this, Seb? Are we going like a top 10? Are we going to go in reverse order, building up to your number one indie game?
I think
on?
At first I was thinking of doing the reverse order, but I want to start off with the number one game because like over the last probably like 3 to 4 months, this game is starting to become like more and more popular. People are, starting to become awake to this game versus, being slept on. So I want to start off with Vampire Survivors, man. Like Vampire Survivors is a game that I think if this game would have come out in July or like maybe even like April, this would be a contender for Game of the Year right now. I think it is. I think, I don't think that's a hot take because like this game came out a couple of weeks ago and is already nominated for like the, they call it, they have their own little categories in the Game Awards, but it's already nominated amongst like the breakout indie game of the year. So I think that is already telling, but I think if you look on Twitter, if you look on like a lot of the other social media sites, you see people talking about this game over and over again. And it's for a good reason because this game is so simple, but so addicting. The whole hook of the whole thing is like, it's a game kind of similar to Diablo in the sense that you have hordes and hordes of like enemies coming your way. But the kicker is that instead of you using your powers, the game uses powers for you. You only simply move around on the screen. But you have to choose which powers and upgrades you get as you level up. So it's more like a strategy game in which you kind of have to like unlock several different like power-ups and moves. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of, like some of the retro games that we may be played on the SNES or like or even like the Super Nintendo days to where like games sort of like what is that game where you kind of like it was like a 4-player dungeon beat 'em up crawler.
Gauntlet or something like that.
Gauntlet, that's exactly the one I was thinking of. It kind of reminds me a lot of Gauntlet to where, like the whole gist of that game was basically to like survive and then beat the level and then go on to the boss fight.
Yeah.
They take out the boss fight aspect and just think about it as like a horde mode and you basically have this game.
Is it like isometric, sort of a top-down view or?
Yeah, it's kind of. It's not necessarily top-down. It's more like kind of slanted a little bit, but it is kind of like you do kind of oversee the grand landscape of everything. So
yeah,
it's a game that it's on Game Pass right now, both on Game Pass PC and on Game Pass consoles. So and it's also on mobile, and I cannot believe how much fun this simple game actually is because like I can play 4 matches, and normally a match might take you anywhere from 11 minutes to about 30 minutes. And it doesn't feel like I spent very much time with it at all.
Brilliant.
So I really do think that one is like one of the games that if it did come out earlier this year, it would be in the running for Game of the Year. No disrespect to like the Strays of the world, because I do think Stray like had its moment to where everyone was talking about that game. But I think this game probably would have taken its spot.
Brilliant.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's high praise indeed. So based on that higher level of content there, what's your second pick?
The second pick is a game that reviewed very well, like super well, but it kind of got overshadowed. It kind of got Horizon Forbidden West. I'm using that as a verb there. But
it got Elden Ringed.
Yeah, basically. It got overshadowed by like Cult of the Lamb. But this game is Rogue Legacy 2. And I don't know if y'all played the first Rogue Legacy game, but like it came out, it got 10s across the board. And this second game is everything that the first game had to offer, but ramped up times 10. So it is a better game than that first iteration of it and that first installment. But I think so many people were playing like Cult of the Lamb and were playing like games kind of in that middle of the year kind of like spectrum that I think this game didn't quite get its due. But if you look it up, it still has like fantastic reviews. Like the people who play this game really love this game. But so the general gist is that in Rogue Legacy 2, you play as a family that's trying to take down a castle, so to speak. And in the castle, there are 6 different biomes, and each biome has its own boss associated with it. And in Rogue Legacy 2, it sort of mixes in like the Mario, like, like the Mario isms of a platformer, but with more like Super Smash Brothers style gameplay and action. So if you like so I think that's really creative as well. But like one of the really cool aspects of this game is when you die in this game, rather than it just being a simple roguelike to where you get revived, you don't play as that same character. You play as that character's descendant. And in that vein, like the descendant has maybe you get 3 different like character classes to choose from, and like it'll be randomized. But in this game, you can also like unlock other character classes that you get to choose from your descendant pool later on. So like, for instance, one of my favorite classes in this game, and this is a fantasy game, but my favorite character is the boxer class, to where it gives you boxer like abilities. And it gives you like knockout blows, as opposed to you wielding swords and everything like that. You can actually punch back projectiles at people, or like you can wind up sort of like in Super Smash Brothers. I'm trying to remember the boxing character. Now I'm blanking out on his name, but like you can punch up off the screen and punch characters off the screen. It's that same kind of like vein there. And I think this game really like punches above its weight.
Is this the series where your next character is the son of the previous character? Is this the
this is exactly it?
Yeah. Okay. I've always been slightly fascinated by, I presume, the first game, and I guess this sequel mixes it up and does everything different. There's something quite cool about playing the son and the grandson and the great-great-grandson of your original character, who was probably rubbish, let's face it, because you're just working out the game. You probably died very quickly. And his great-great-great-grandson is probably the one who finishes the quest. I find it fascinating that it passes it on. That's one element of this series that always intrigued me. And the fact that, as you say, you get quite far with one character and then you die, are elements of that character that you've built up then incorporated into your spawn.
So here's the cool aspect of the game, and this is the unique, I guess you say, premise. It's like, no, the characters, the aspect isn't incorporated into your descendants like that. You then use the money that you earned in your previous run to unlock traits that all your descendants have going forward. And so like you can build up your version of the castle, like, and say like, hey, I'm building up the armory so that all my descendants have +5 hit points, or I'm building up like this section of the wing, like I'll build up the kitchen part, and now I've unlocked the class of a cook and a chef. And the chef is like one of these cool classes to where like it can use a frying pan, or like use a pot to heal himself, or he uses the frying pan to basically set enemies on fire, or like he throws like his like cooking creations at enemies and it slowly like poisons them, or or like turns other enemies against it. It's this weird premise, as well as like the descendants all have quirks, just like real people. Like, say for instance, one descendant that you might play as might be colorblind, so the whole screen goes black and white during that playthrough.
Oh, that's no way. That's clever.
Yeah. Or another one might be like fascinated by, like, he is a person who's obsessed with Christmas. So that whole playthrough is like a Christmas themed playthrough where everyone's wearing like Santa hats, or like, or it's snowing around you. It is the way that they use like the quirks, so to speak, trait of like all your descendants is really what makes this game stand out, because like no playthrough feels the same. Like, takes for instance, like there's one descendant that I played like 2 days ago, to where he had enhanced power, enhanced ability, but he dies in one hit. And
wow,
yeah, so I'm like, the way you play with that character is drastically different than any other character beforehand. But like the game makes you feel rewarded for even those characters that you didn't necessarily like vibe with, or like that has traits like clownism. There's like a trait to where like one of your descendants might feel like he wants to be a clown, so like all of his like abilities are very Joker-esque, as opposed to being like medieval.
Yeah.
And it is a fascinating game, because like there are I want to say there's about 30 different character traits and 17 different classes, so all the playthroughs all feel different.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it is a game that you can easily get, like, it's a roguelike game that I think stands up right there with like some of the best ones of Dead Cells and all that.
So I think the original was on PS Plus, I believe, wasn't it? Rogue Legacy. I'm sure I've got that on my library.
I think Rogue Legacy, the first one, is, but I know the second one right now is available on Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and PC.
I think I'll be heading to the Vita to download the first one, because I probably didn't quite realize it. I mean, every week we make a joke that every week a game comes out and it's a roguelike. It's a roguelike. Probably 2 or 3 times a week we get a roguelike in the boot. And we kind of feel probably a little bit drowned out and colorblind to them. So to hear that this described in your eloquent way, Seb, this has got my interest peaked.
Yeah.
And I feel like
depth
it's like most indies, it feels like it fits a handheld. So maybe the sequel on Switch or maybe the original on Vita. That's something
for sure.
I need in my life. I was kind of intrigued if maybe in the third game, I know you could probably paint yourself into a corner, for want of a better word, but if the way you played summed up your air. So, the air was called like, I can think of a medieval name.
Sir Pingingwickle.
Sir Pingingwickle. Perfect. Sir Pingingwickle the Careless.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously this guy, I fell off one of the platforms and died. And then the next guy has vertigo. So when you play as his son, when you get to a high area, he sort of backs off and he's nervous, and it makes it hard to get him to jump over or engage in high spaces. Equally so, if he got attacked from an animal behind or a creature behind, he's like Sir Pinkerwinkle. The rear shield or something like that. And obviously his son develops like a hardened skin on his back to make sure he doesn't get stabbed in the back. Yeah. So each time, when I first read Rogue Legacy as a review, I kind of thought that would be the way it was going to go, but it makes more sense the way you've described it, and it certainly makes it more open for gamers. Because my way, you'd end up with a guy probably can't walk, talk, or swing a sword, stuck in his bedroom, and the game would basically be locked out because nothing would work and it would be frozen on these bedroom screens. So, okay, that's another good mix-up. What are we going for your third pick from this rather interesting
this is a
pile?
game that a lot of people probably played in around August, and that's Rollerdrome.
Oh, okay.
Tell me, I feel like I've done a disservice to Rollerdrome. Put my mind at ease. Tell me how I'm going to put it right, Seb, and tell me the whole story of Rollerdrome.
Okay, so Rollerdrome is basically for all those people back in the day that really liked Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and also like shooter games. It's kind of a mixture between like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Fortnite. Combine those together, and you still have that kind of like sweet satisfaction of doing like really cool tricks, really cool roller skating tricks like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But you also have to like balance that out with the shooting mechanics. And the game does a really good job of how you actually earn your loot, of how you upgrade your weapons, of how you actually upgrade like your bullets, because like the game gives you an option of having unlimited ammo as long as you keep doing tricks. So it keeps you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got to be good at the tricks if you want to do the shooty.
Or you can just be basic tricks and just like, do minor tricks and then just like, focus on shooting. But like the trick is like, it also has like a high score kind of bar to where like it encourages you to actually try to do like the high difficulty tricks, and then like trying to do like tricks into like a shot or like a headshot sort of move.
That's cool.
So this game, I've never played a game quite like this though, and I think that's what's really telling about this, because like I can always have like a comp with this game's like this or this game's like that, but I've never played a game to where it kind of combines that skating aspect, such as like games like Skate and Tony Hawk, with a shooter dynamic, sort of like. Well, it is very Fortnite-esque in the way like the shooting mechanics work. So I think this is a really cool game. I think this is a really fresh idea in a landscape that's filled with repetitive ideas that come along. So I do, and this is a very short experience. Like I think you can beat the whole campaign in like 10 hours. I happen to I was reviewing this game and I was provided a code ahead of time, so I kind of mainlined it and kind of did it in like 7, but. Really, the game gives you a lot of incentives and a lot of extra side missions, so to speak, that it is fleshed out enough that you can get a solid 14-hour experience out of. And it's stupidly cheap. I think you can get the game for around like $30. So I think this is a easy game.
I was thinking the sale, it's down to 15.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm like, at $15, I think this is the best price, the best bang for your buck that you'll probably get in Black Friday, because it's a game that you know, if you let your kids play like Fortnite, you can easily let them play this game. Like it is very much, and it's very much like teaching you sort of like how to play the game, and it does ramp up its difficulty appropriately. Like it never feels like, oh, all of a sudden I really have to learn like 17 tricks just to like beat this level. Everything feels well thought out. It feels well executed. And honestly, I haven't played anything like this ever before. So kudos to the Roll7 for creating something like this.
One thing that appeals to me most of all is the art style of that.
Really cool.
It looks gorgeous,
Yeah, and it's got a style that kind of hints at retro future nostalgia. And
it's like a Jet Set Radio sort of cell shaded skate game.
That's a good comparison. I will say, like, I wish with a game like this, with skate games, I think a lot of the soundtrack sort of like feels like it's infused with that genre. And this game kind of lacks like a dynamic soundtrack. It does have a couple of bangers here and there, but like I wish it would have really like punched harder with like some of its sound choices there.
Okay, so that's that put to bed. What's your next game on the list?
So Perdius is a game that is like a retro game, retro Doom kind of game. If you liked Doom back when it still had the pixelated graphics and pixelated art style,
I have been intrigued by this game. It does look good, doesn't it?
This game is really going to speak to you then. Everything about this game is like that old school Doom feeling, but they mixed in modern day mechanics from Doom Eternal into like that old retro art style. And the game really flies. It's really fun. The story is just like Doom, so to speak. If you really just, it does feel like it is that, hey, demons are come, they're trying to take over the world sort of thing. But, you know, like you're the last line of defense. You're basically the Doom bot, or you're the Master Chief who's basically, you know, going to take them all out. Yeah. So the story's not anything to write home about. But two things that really stand out about this game is like the game feels good. I haven't played a game that feels this polished as a shooter, as a single player campaign shooter, since like the old school Halo games, since the Doom Eternal, so to speak. It is a game that feels like you could have told me that AAA studio did this game and I would have completely believed you. Like the game, everything about this game feels like it had a team of like 70 people who worked on it endlessly besides the graphics. But even the graphics have like in their own way looks very, very well done, you know, because they chose that art style. They really committed hard to it. And the enemies, the enemy design, the character design, they really feel like everything's well done, well thought out, and everything kind of had a plan. And one of the things I really want to shout out about this game is the game's forge mode, so to speak. Just like in Halo, they have like modes to where you can let the community create like modes that you can actually play through. And
that's cool.
The community creations on those are fantastic, absolutely amazing. I would actually say, like, if you only wanted to play just one mode alone, just do the modes that the community has created, because like the community like creations in this game rival that of like Mario, so to speak, where everyone was creating those Mario levels. Like I think, you know, there's really cool and original levels that people created. Like there's one I played recently where one guy created the Mario 64 level, like a couple of Mario 64 levels, and you can kind of play through half the game with just like, but with a Doombot style as opposed to, you know, being a platformer. Really creative. I've never
Mario's
seen
fever dream.
Exactly.
If his dreams weren't feverish enough.
Exactly. So I think like the enemy variety here, the way the game controls, how responsive and how good it feels as a shooter, because as y'all know, like a part of a good shooter is the feeling of the game, like whether or not it actually feels like responsive, whether or not it's like sluggish or not. This game feels pristine, and I would recommend it to anyone and everyone, especially if you have an Xbox Series S or X, because this game plays like a dream on those consoles.
Beautiful. Well, nice to have a little bit of shoot action in there. What's your next slice of indie action for us?
The next game I'm going to recommend is probably the most underrated indie game of the year, well, at least one of them. It's Jack Move. Jack Move is a game that's very similar to like your retro RPGs, the turn-based retro RPGs. It has a art style similar to Prodeus, kind of like 2-bit cyberpunk art style that
Nice.
I've never seen any game that kind of leaned into that kind of like combination. But because like this game feels kind of like Cyberpunk if Cyberpunk was a 2D 2D Pokemon game. And I say this in the sense that like you don't control little creatures or anything like that, but you yourself get bigger and better or like get stronger. This kind of feels like Cyberpunk meets the Matrix if it was trapped in a 2D like turn-based game.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's a really cool concept. And I have the creator and the lead programmer on the show on my podcast like coming up in a couple of months. And just some of the early like talks that we've had back and forth, like he wanted to create an adult centric type of like RPG to where it does lean towards like some of the heavier like materials that we go through as adults. Like it does talk about like, you know, what abandonment kind of feels like, what the true definition of found family kind of feels like, as opposed to Pokemon games. No offense to Pokemon, but like Pokemon always has surface-based stories, whereas this game really leans into its narrative and really focuses in on like, I want you to feel like you're playing a game that has a modern day kind of like story and feel to it. So if you like turn-based games, and especially turn-based games to where like the difficulty, while it is a slightly difficult game, it's kind of like Pokemon, so to speak. Like it ramps up appropriately. And
I like the idea of the I like the idea of the story. The fact that the story serves the gameplay, not the gameplay serving the story. It's got a definite story hook to it, which obviously based on my single player snobbery appeals to me greatly, Seb. So yeah, I might. Is this on PlayStation 4?
It's on PlayStation 4, Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and S, and PC. I've got to say, this is like the best game I've played on the Steam Deck so far, because like it feels perfect in that handheld capacity. So I haven't played the Switch versions, but I got to say, as a handheld, if this was made on the Vita, I think this would be one of the most pristine like Vita games so far this year. But like on the Steam Deck, this feels like you're playing a modern day Pokemon game, but made for adults. It's kind of similar to Persona, but you know, without having a multiple party system to where you have to manage several people. You just manage yourself, and you kind of get stronger and stronger.
Awesome. Well, that's gone in my wish list. Hopefully, I can find it in the extended 70% off sale, which would make me feel very happy with myself. A little stocking filler, per se.
Yeah.
What's the next slice of beautifulness you've got for us?
The next couple of
how
games,
many more have you got left?
I'm gonna do a quick rundown. So I'm gonna do so I got about 4 left, but I'm going to basically do like a quick rundown of these. The next 4 games I'm not going to talk about in detail because like they only appeal to a certain type of person. Like the first one being Beacon Pines. Beacon Pines is a story-based game where it's a kind of like a point and click mystery adventure, but the really pull of this, and I spoke to the creator, he was on the show, but like the pull of this is like it is Peaky Blinders mixed in with like Winnie the Pooh, so to speak. It does have this
that sounds incredible.
Seb, I don't know what was in that cupcake, but my goodness gracious me, it must have been, I don't know, it must have been fermenting berries.
It really is one of those, like, it's a weird blend, but it works really well because like this game has a cutesy art style, but like it is a very dark and very heavy story. So like this game, if you look at it on the surface, you would be like, oh, that's the perfect kid game. But no, this game has like murder, it has like genocide, it has like this big, like really deep story about finding your found place in the world, about like these dark underlying secrets of this town that you live in. And it is one of the best story-centric games I've played this year. It's currently on Xbox Game Pass. It's currently on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, and PC. I definitely recommend this to people who are like story-centric gamers and people who like point-and-click adventures.
We've got loads of those in the Discord, so that is excellent news. So that will pique their interest. So that's everyone thought point and click was dead. Seb comes along, throws it down on the floor like Resusciani and breathes life into it to the point where it stood up and having a conversation with me over a cup of tea. Give us these last trio of games then, Seb.
Okay, so Thamisia is a game that's very much like it's very much like basically Bloodborne. It is a Soulsborne game made by a small indie studio, and this game kind of like feels, I don't know, like there's a game coming out called like Stories I think it's Stories of P, the Pinocchio like Soulsborne game coming out. This game kind of feels very reminiscent of that, except on a more AA level. It feels very high AA. But I would recommend this to anyone who wants to play like a very cheap, maybe $20 like Souls experience. The game is like super. It's not super easy, but it is super quick to beat. I think it took me like 10 hours, maybe 12 hours to get through it. Really good boss fights. The next one's Tinykin. Tinykin is a game on Game Pass that's very much like Pikmin. If you like the Pikmin games and you like the platformer, the platform and the I guess you could say the puzzle solving elements of Pikmin, this is a game that will very much speak to you. It's currently on Xbox, PC, PS4, PS5, and Switch. The game it doesn't take very long to beat either. It is always on sale, and it is very well polished. It's very well polished, and I do think like the game at a $15 sale or maybe even like a $20 sale is well worth it. But if you have Game Pass, just play it on there, try it out for a couple hours and see if it's for you. The last one I'm going to recommend is Carino Origins. Is a game that if you liked those old SNES games to where where like the game is going to be challenging, it's a platformer. You play as this skeleton that has a giant sigh, almost akin to Castlevania, so to speak, because it does have a lot of Castlevania elements. But like the game is challenging, but it's rewarding. It has like a lot of the retro kind of like gameplay of like games like the Lion King mixed in with like Castlevania. So I definitely recommend to people who wanted to play like a SNES game that's going to be very challenging. The game's always on sale on Steam. I mean like I got the code for review from the developer, but like I always see this game on sale for like $3.99, maybe even $5.99. And at that price for the 12 levels, I think it's 10 to 12 levels that you play. It's a steal of a deal. I would highly recommend people check it out.
Excellent. Well, I've made some notes. I think my game I'm going to download this week actually is Jack Move. Quite excited by the idea of that. So that's not only does it look fantastic, but you've described it in a way that makes me want to basically cut it up, stick it in a spoon, draw it up in a needle and stick it in my arm. As an alternative to some of those big AAA games coming out, I've been looking for that little bit of something to keep me going. We call it on the show a palate cleanser. I feel Jack Move is that thing to wash away the taste of Ragnarok, cleanse my palate, and allow me to absorb Callisto Protocol like a sponge in a wet sink. To that note, Seb, it feels like you've arrived with a bootload of goodies, very seasonal of you, sort of around that time of year where gifts are given, and you've given us, and not only us, but everyone listening here across the world, a great idea of what they can get their teeth into next. And the good thing about an indie game, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's available in bite-sized pocket money deals.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And especially if you can find them in some of the games what I do on the PlayStation Store as an example is I go in the sale and then I flip them by price, lowest first. And some of the wheat and chaff down there in the lower section take some wading through. You've pulled on your galoshes and you've gone through and found those nuggets for me so I don't have to. And for the listeners, thank you for that. And some of your eloquency and detail that you went into on those games has actually brought a fresh eye to a game that I might have just seen the artwork for on the menu and gone, because Jack Move, based on its artwork for the box art, doesn't look like it'd be my kind of thing. But now you've described it and I've looked at it and I think this is my kind of thing. So thank you very much for that. Now, the link here is every week we have a bit of a rogue come round our house, Seb. He normally brings us a boot full of games to pick through, the new releases. His name is Stingray. Now, I don't want to get controversial here, but he's quite territorial. And the fact that you've turned up with a brace of games probably makes him feel a little angry, if I'm honest. So hopefully we can keep him calm. Here he is. He's tearing up the drive. Oh, he looks furious. It's time for a peek in what we affectionately call Stingray's boot, what's nestled between some counterfeit nappies and a dodgy copy of Battlefriend all this week. These are the new release highlights for the week November 28th to December the 4th, 2022. Listeners, these are out digital or physical, or will be by the time this Stingray is scaring me. By the time this podcast in your feed, but could be region dependent. Now, people know I see Stingray as a guy with a blonde mullet, wears denim, smokes a very cheap cigarette brand here in the UK, Lambert and Butler. He's an edgy character that deals in pirated material, but it's how we get our new games. Everybody sees him differently. Now, I'm excited stroke nervous about how he's presenting himself to you. So what do you see as a manifestation in front of you right now?
So Mr. Stingray seems like, I don't know if y'all ever watch pro wrestling, but he almost seems like the Undertaker mixed in with like Mankind, but like,
wow.
Yeah, mixed in with like Mankind, and then he kind of like, but the kicker is though, like for some reason I'm also getting like I don't know, like kind of like a Kratos kind of vibe to him, to where like he's this muscle kind of buff guy. I don't know, like Stingray sounds like very intimidating, but there's also that one mental picture of me to where like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen the show Cobra Kai, where like there's a character on there like named Stingray. And it's hard for me to take that mental image out, because he is a like fluffy marshmallow kind of guy, to where like he's a grown man who like attends a karate class with like these 16-year-old kids. So I'm like, it's that weird balance of like, I'm imagining like the Undertaker's like big long hair, like, and like the rolling back of the eyes with like Mankind's like mask on, but at the same time too, I see his upper body being like buff like Kratos, but like his lower body being very pudgy, akin to the Cobra Kai character.
Wow.
So he's a hulking guy, but I don't think his legs will let him run real fast.
Okay, so
that is a man I want to meet.
I've just seen a scrawny looking guy with a blonde mullet and denim. And he looks scary enough to me, but to see this madly proportioned hulk of a man, yet with these big waddly short legs,
almost like the penguin like legs, you know.
Oh my goodness gracious me. Okay, so not only did he skip leg day, he attended double all you can eat day at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of mentally told his body, don't dwell on the upside. Secrete yourself down there. Not down there, but in the legs. More than the John Thomas, as we would call it. Not the retro gamer Thomas, but the
yeah.
We'll
You're
leave
digging
it
a hole
there.
here. You're digging a hole.
Okay. Fine. He's here. You see him that way. That might go in the top 10 best ways Stingray's ever been seen. To be fair, might even be my number one. I don't want to provoke him any further, so I'm going to reach into the boot. First game out. Let's have a look. Okay. In Nightmare on the PC, November 29th, enter a chilling world of whimsy and horror. Closing his heart to reality, our protagonist falls into a deep slumber and awakens in a nightmarish dream world. In Nightmare is a narrative-driven horror adventure game combining sneak action with diverse puzzles. It follows a young boy in search for the last hope of love, who is working out his own salvation by navigating through his fear. Sounds like one messed up kid, but Stingray's brought it to us, so it's a pick. Who wants to go? Seb, would you like to go next? What's your choice out the boot? No, not your choice, but just pull out I don't know what this next game is. What have you got there?
In order to avoid Stingray's wrath, I'm going to talk about the next game, which is The Night Witch. It's coming out for PC.
He comes for the throat when he comes, Seb.
Exactly.
Speak with your throat guard.
Yeah, keep one eye on him. One eye on him.
Exactly. Like, I feel like, by the way, I feel like Stingray can do like a hell of a tombstone power driver to me, but like, I only feel like he's got one in him with his legs. That like before he just gives out.
One wonders though, if his legs aren't high enough when he goes to do the tombstone power driver, it will be even more dangerous because the distance between your head and the tarmac is so much shorter that you ain't got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
No, for sure not. He doesn't do like the Undertaker in wrestling, like does like a slight jumping mechanism, like a slight jumping action when he does it. He doesn't do that. He just thumps you down, basically. Thumps you down.
The sort of lower half vertical challenge of this sort of incarnation of Ray. Wow.
Yeah, he's frightening, but going back to the game, though, The Night Witch is a Metrovania adventure game with fast-paced shoot-'em-up combat set in a beautiful hand-drawn world. Cast devastating card-based spells, forge close bonds, and make morale choices, all in your quest to save your home and discover who's behind the War Golem invasion.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, wow.
What you got here?
Let's have a look. Hang on. Out of the way, Wayne. We've got... Guys, he was in the way, that boy, isn't he? We've got, Soccer Story, PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. It's out November 29th. The world might be over. Soccer Incorporates has closed down every local stadium, team, and tournament. What kind of world can survive without the beautiful game? Thankfully, a magical soccer ball has chosen you, our saviour of soccer.
It sounds like they haven't done their research properly, and sadly, a game like this already existed on the Mega Drive called Magic Marco's Football. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and there was also Soccer Kid on the Amiga.
Soccer Kid?
Yeah, on the Amiga, yeah.
Is this?
Well, and Mega Drive or Genesis.
Ray, we know he does the pirate games, but I didn't know he was rehashing 80s games and slapping them out with Soccer Story.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like I played a game like this 2 weeks ago called Dodgeball Academia, which is the same exact concept except it's dodgeball.
Cool. Yeah. It does look cool. Maybe this is cool, but we give it a hard time because it's in Ray's boot, but maybe we should be kinder to it. Next up, Dwarven Skykeep on the PC. I'm a big fan of the PC Master Race. December the 1st. A humorous pixel art strategy game set in a medieval world of wizardry. Dies. Your version of Ray has got me that uptight and scared, Seb, that I don't even dare look at my version of Ray anymore. Dive into a supernatural universe and start building towers using your magical deck of cards and drunken dwarves.
I don't know what to make of it.
Don't worry about it. Just keep picking the games out, Seb. Don't look him in the eye. He'll have you.
Don't look him in the eye. All right, so for the next game, Mr. Stingray, the next game is going to be Gundam Evolution for the PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, and the Xbox One. It comes out December the 1st. Gundam Evolution is a fast-paced, immersive, team-based FPS game where you pilot mobile suits and from the hit series Gundam anime. So, I got mixed feelings about this one.
Yeah.
The Ray doesn't pick the games pick the Ray. Did I have this before we get caught into this? Did I have this, or have I got this on PS2? Romancing Saga Minstrel Song. Something about that name suggests
that name
to me.
Does sound familiar to me.
Yeah, I thought it came in like a red slip case in the Europe, and it was a double pack that you kind of opened up. Romancing Saga. I kind of remember it, but tell us all about it.
Romancing Saga Minstrel Song Remastered, PC, PS5, PS4, and Switch, and that's coming out December 1st. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song returns as a stunning remastered edition with new gameplay elements and quality of life features. Get ready for an even deeper story and an even more thrilling adventure.
Okay, so I'm going to pick this one out. Holy moly, it's Callisto Protocol on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, and Xbox One, December 2nd. This is my mummy. Anyone else want to grab a copy while they're here? No? This is about as popular as Viva Pinata. Callisto Protocol, December 2nd. Fight to survive the horrors locked within the walls of Black Iron Prison in this immersive next-generation take on survival horror, the Callisto Protocol. So we're down to 2.
Yeah.
Which one of these is the mummy?
Mummy.
Put mine down. Okay, so the next one is Marvel's Midnight Suns for the PC, PS5, and the Xbox Series X. It comes out December the 2nd. You lead Blade, Wolverine, Magic, and more against Lilith's army of the underground. An all-new superhero tactical RPG from Marvel from the creators of XCOM.
Now that's all the pedigree you need. Is that your mummy?
I love Marvel games, and I love like superhero games. I'm hearing some mixed things about this one though.
Do you like XCOM?
I enjoyed XCOM. I don't think I fell in love with it like a lot of people did, but I really enjoy it. But to have the Marvel side of the fence, because this game does have a lot of like, I guess you could say character relationships, very similar to like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. That part intrigues me a little more than the gameplay, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that is this your mummy RGT this next game?
It is, yeah. I know I wasn't too fired up for Need for Speed Unbound, but I think I saw a couple more trailers this week, and I thought, I'm tempted to give it a go. I think with that sort of unique art style.
Well, you're into that now.
I'm not into it. I'm intrigued. Once I'm into it, I'm intrigued.
You're intrigued.
By,
fair play.
That's that sort of cell shaded versus ray trace.
Probably
graphics.
worth the expense of Grid Legends to make you feel like it's a good game after playing a rather dull game.
yeah. But anyway,
is this the one that has like the anime style kind of like art style?
Yeah, and the neons that come off the wheels and all the cool effects.
Need for Speed Unbound, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, December 2nd. Race against time, outsmart the cops, and take on weekly qualifiers to reach the grand. Lakeshore's ultimate street racing challenge in Need for Speed Unbound.
Wow. Okay. Now, before we let the human monstrosity, as you see him, Seb, leave the premises, we normally pick out a retro VHS because that's pretty much all he deals in. When you get that home, you open it up and it's a DVD or an MP4 or whatever you need it to be. But right now, when you touch your hand on it, that's what it is. Now, I'm picking. It's that time of the year, so I'm going to pick Santa Claus the movie with Dudley Moore. It's
nice.
The only Christmas movie. Anything else, I will slit its throat and load it in the back of Ray's car to be disposed of like another one of his victims. What about you, Seb? What's your VHS pick?
I think based on the holiday season, I'm going to go Die Hard.
A man not only of class, but elegance. Nice call. Ray, I see my version of Ray nodding approvingly. He thought you were almost like, I don't know, competition for him. You arrive with a boot full of indie games, and that's normally his role. But he's saying to me, this guy gets a free pass. I'm not going to do a small person two-stone hard drive on him. Which one has to admit I'm gracious for, because we'd like to have you back on. So let me turn to RGT, hopefully to lower the taste pool down a little bit. What are you picking, sir?
I'm going to pick a film I hadn't actually never seen before, I hate to admit, and it's not a seasonal, it's not in the holiday season. It's The Hunt for Red October. I'm going.
Oh, such a good one.
My goodness, yes.
Yes, on VHS.
Are you going to... What of a beautiful way to consume that. Yeah. Well, I know this sounds strange, but I just turned around and the Ray was gone. But in a fitting nod to you, RGT, I looked at the pebbles on the drive and I saw a sub-scope just sucked down below the pebble. So I guess somehow he's dived deep on my drive. He's running silent. He's running deep. He's a Scottish... I see him as a Scottish man playing a Russian naval captain. That's a little bit how we perceive the ray.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but do you know what? It works, especially for this show. Those that have paid attention for the last 143 episodes know that when the ray disappears, I have to ask my fine co-hosts, gentlemen, what are you hoping to play?
Let Seb go first.
Guest first, absolutely. Yes, Seb, what do you want to play?
So keeping up with the news that's coming up, I never, and this is to my detriment, I've never beaten The Witcher 3. And hearing that we're about to get that, next gen update for free, by the way.
Yeah.
For free. That's like, I'm going to dive back into that and I'm going to give it a try because like I have never gotten past, I think it's the first island or the first little area that you're in. Yeah. Every time I try to play that game, like something comes along and kind of like distracts me. I think the last time I tried Persona 5 kind of like sucked me in and didn't let me go. But I love Persona, but I think, this time around, I really don't have anything like that's taking up that main narrative slot in my video game backlog list. So it's this game's opportunity to really like impress me. And I hope that CD Projekt Red kills it with this.
That upgrade as well. I don't know if you've seen the rolling footage of it now where they've done a side-by-side.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's marginal gains, but enough to put it up top tier to make it look nice, to make it look, flawless in every single situation. Textures look great, everything. I think Witcher, depending on the platform you played it on, maybe base Xbox One or base PS4, there's a little bit of texture flicker in near to mid distance, and it would load a low poly holding texture, and then almost as you pass it, the high res one, like it's a bit late now. I've already looked at this horrible texture for the last 30 seconds, and now for the last 2 seconds of my journey, poof, there, you're going to give me that, are you? So, nice call. Anything else?
No, I'm going to probably review the Night Witch as well. That one is a game, that really kind of like speaks to me on the indie level because I always like showing indie games some love. I always try to like see which kind of like indie games are kind of going to be that little gem that I can recommend to people. So I'm going to probably give the Night Witch some love. And other than that, I think I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. I think those two are going to be my main focus after I've finished trying to get the platinum in God of War.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Well, someone's already dropped the platinum in the Discord community, which beggars belief, to be honest with you, but it's done. They're on to the next game. Just drop them like...
And I do believe that, I think it was his 300th platinum as well, I think, wasn't it?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
What an absolute trooper. Okay, well, before I feel like I can't stood up in the gentleman's urinals ever again, RGT, what are you hoping to play?
Going to get stuck back into Harvestella, play some more of that. Really enjoying that. Really easy going, really chilled out game. Liking it. I will add though, I did play it in handheld mode, and I've got the Switch OLED. It's not great in handheld mode. You expect them to look that much better in the handheld mode. It actually looks better on the TV. It's very sort of washed out.
That's a strange, weird scenario, isn't it? Almost, normally, you have to sort of forego the big TV experience so you can play it in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, it looks really good. Looks really good in the TV. It looks almost like smeared in Vaseline on the Switch. Do
you think it's the art style, or do you think it's the Switch itself? I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Normally, like I say, you're playing any game I've played before. You play on the big screen. You switch it onto the OLED, and it looks absolutely fantastic. That's not the way to play it. But no, I don't know what it is. Whether that's something they'll patch or whether that's...
maybe you need to clean your screen.
Or my glasses.
Yeah. Unknown viscous substance dripping down causes graphics to look sort of strange and Vaseline-like. I mean, I don't know what it could be.
But yeah, I'll probably play a bit more Grid Legends. So get into that a bit more. And now, after speaking to Seb, I'm quite tempted with Rogue Legacy. That's sitting in my library. I think I'm going to give that. And also the Roller Drone. That really appeals to me. I might be.
That looks cool.
Doing a couple of downloads this afternoon and giving those a go. But yeah, that's what I'll be playing. What about you, George?
Well, I'm moving straight to the PSN store and basically injecting Jack Move into my eyeballs as I need a piece of this. And it's one of those games I feel that can just sit on the dash, When you've hit a bit of a brick wall with God of War, sometimes they don't drop first time or easy. So you're like, oh, God, I'll do it again. And sometimes I just want to say, no, I want to have something a little bit different for 5 or 10 minutes. And then I can come back. I don't want to stop playing games, but I want to stop playing this game for a moment before I completely lose myself. And Stingray, give a PlayStation 5 a short walk off a long walk off a short Tombstone pile driver. So eloquently put. There'll be some more Ragnarok, no doubt. May even try and find a little bit of time to kill those wretched fire claws. Daemon Fireclaws in the Frozen Wilds expansion, and maybe might be time to finish the Out and Center expansion for Chase the Horizon.
Nice.
But yeah, it's plenty of indie games to go back and trawl through. Maybe even might pick up the first roguelite for the Vita as well. So that would be Rogue Legacy, should I say? They're all roguelites.
One last thing about Jack Move that I think you're really gonna love is it has this feature that I've never seen in an RPG before, because like in RPGs like Pokemon, you walk through the grass and then the enemy pops out. Jack Move is very much like that, but it has a setting that you can like toggle that on and off, or you can raise the level of say I want to grind more, so every couple of steps I can raise that level, and then every couple of steps a new enemy appears, or I can lower that completely because I want to just do side quests and then no enemy appears. And I've never seen anything quite like that player convenient focus.
That's cool, because sometimes in these games we all know how the mechanics work. You have to grind, and often that involves you walking around in a circle, waiting for random. But at least this one pays some respect to not only our intelligence, but to rapidly ensuing ways of doing things differently in games now. Not tied to the hardware limitations. They're not tied to sort of gameplay limitations anymore that go hand in hand. They can now embrace different things. So they can embrace this old school style, but then give you the modern conventions on top that say yes or no to grind right now. And when you say no, and you can go do a side mission unfettered and left to your own devices to enjoy and do, and then grind up again after that for your next main story encounter, that to me is like manna from heaven. More of that, please, game developers.
It's really good.
That's a nice touch. Well, with that, being the kind, eloquent people we are, we thank you once again, Seb, for your time. We've absolutely loved
Seb.
having you here. I don't know if I'll ever get over your version of Ray, but we'd love to have you back. Maybe he looks different next time. Who only knows? We implore everyone to engage with you on the Discord. I implore you to drop all your links in Discord share section. Links to cool stuff, I believe, would be a really good place for it. And you're part of the family now, so welcome. And thank you for educating us on indie games that we may have slept on. Let's face it, sounds like I was suffering from a coma while all these came out. So thank you for that. Seb, do you want to leave us with any knowledge before we dive out the door?
Just thank you all very much for having me on. It's been a blast talking all this sweet nerdy goodness with y'all. I really had a good time. Sorry to leave you with nightmares of Ray, because that is a beastly scary sight. But no, thank y'all so much for having me on. And everyone go check out the pronerdreport.com and the Single Player Experience podcast.
Definitely. If you're not there already, what's wrong with you? My spirit animal, a single player fan, an educator. What more could anyone ask for? And with that, I must say that's all we have time for this week. Listeners, as always, thank you for your time. We look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming. And remember, there's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial controller. It's what you do with it that counts. See you guys.
See you later, guys.
Peace.